This summer is all about soccer, and as the official pain reliever of the NWSL, we are proud to launch PainTalk. This is a new campaign, really a new movement that is all focused on showcasing that real strength isn't about powering through pain. It's about owning that full recovery journey. For too long, pain, especially women's pain, has been something that people were expected to push through quietly. In sport, that mindset has often been celebrated as toughness. But the reality is, strength isn't about staying silent or sidelining what you feel. It's about acknowledging it, addressing it, and taking steps to manage it. Pain Talk is built on a simple but powerful belief. Effective pain management starts with talking about it. At Tylenol, this work is personal. For over 70 years, we've been committed to caring for people and communities, and today, that means helping normalize the cultural conversation around pain so more can access relief and continue doing what they love. And we couldn't ask for more powerful voices to normalize and lead that conversation than the legendary Mia Hamm and one of today's rising NWSL players, Emma Sears. Together, they represent not only how far the sport has come, but how much further we can go in challenging how we think about pain, recovery, and resilience.
Thank you all for coming. Emma and I are super excited to be here. I think this is an important conversation to have, obviously we both played the game that we love and a lot of similar experiences, I think, and Emma's just in the beginning of her exciting career. Not to date myself, but one of the biggest differences when I started playing on the national team is we didn't have a league. So kind of the wear and tear was a bit different. And now you have, which is what we all wanted, a very successful league. Opportunities for Emma and so many of her teammates to play year round. But with that comes a lot of challenges. You look at your calendar and you try to think of when do I get off? And for a lot of them, that downtime is maybe 6 to 8 weeks, which isn't a lot of time to fully physically recover. So how do they deal with that pain? And, for me as a player, to see just how physical the game is now, the resources are great, but the demands on these athletes' bodies are a lot greater. The speed, the physicality is there. We have a lot of great resources, I think. I know at Angel City, with our training center, it's really, the athletes spend majority of their time there. And so we want to make sure that we acknowledge the needs that they have, both on the field and off, but, try to do what we can to help them manage and take care of their body and be proactive in that.
Yeah, I think to Mia's point, the game has developed so much. And although I think it's very exciting that there's such a massive platform for the game and specifically the NWSL now, I think that the physicality and also the mental challenge is definitely very prevalent. And it's a 12-month-a-year job at this point. And although we do get a short break, during that break, you're constantly thinking about how you can prepare best for the season to come. And I think too, the sports science side of everything has evolved so much and everything is tracked to the highest degree, but that also comes a great amount of pressure because you're expected to perform at your best and at your peak at all times because everything is being tracked now.
Yeah, the ice baths that were literally in your hotel room. And we would empty out the ice machine on the floor. First of all, that's where you want the evolution of the game to be. You want those athletes to be treated like the professionals that they are, that they don't have to go all over the city to find the treatment, that it's in-house. I didn't participate in a league till the end of my career. So a lot of the times, if you did get an injury, you hoped it happened with the team. And I say that because then you would have the opportunity to get treated. Because if you're training on your own and you pull a muscle, I mean, a lot of us were either still on our parents' insurance or we're just trying to figure it out. So that was a lot of the reason, as we'll go into this kind of like culture of silence. That's why you didn't share a lot of that information, because you're like, I'll just gut through it because I don't have the resources that the players do. But then, like Emma said, the expectations are so much higher now with them because they do have that. And it's like, do I share that with my coach? Because you want to stay on the field, even though it might mean that you need to take a day or 3 days or a week off to fully like heal from that little either knock that you got in practice that at first you're like, oh, that's no big deal. I can gut through this, to then it becomes, exacerbated. Like I think, Christian Pulisic right now, we're talking about that. Like what's smart for you to do. And as a competitor, you want to be on the field. The other thing we were talking about is sometimes the thing you don't think is that big of a deal ends up being a bigger injury than anticipated. It's like, no, if I pulled this muscle, it should hurt a lot more than it hurts now. And then you end up compensating. So it's like, oh, my left calf, well, now my right knee hurts because I didn't take care of it. I didn't listen to my body. I was worried about playing time rather than really focused on myself and taking care of it. But I think first is being kind of open and honest about you understanding your body, and then creating that level of trust with your trainer, the team doctor, and your physical therapist, and feeling confident that being able to step away from the team for that 3 to week will help you stay on the field longer in the span of a season.
Yeah, I think too, just as athletes, we're expected to be superhuman at times. And I think that it's important to normalize the conversation around pain. And I think that up until more recently, it's not super surprising that a lot of pain has been dismissed, because a lot of the times it's just, oh, well, they're an athlete, so that's kind of what they signed up for. Or it's the price of being an athlete. But I think that that's especially why this campaign feels really important to us, because we're able to have a space where we can really discuss what it means to acknowledge pain, and not only acknowledge it, but figure out how to best overcome certain things or these little aches that we experience each day. And I think too, like something that I've noticed is on my team, a daily discussion is, it's not always, oh, how are you doing today? It's how are you feeling today? And I think that it's empowering that the conversation is now geared towards just accepting how we feel and then also being able to manage it.
Well, you usually don't feel it till at least 24, and I will say 48 hours is probably the worst. 24, you're like, you start more of the like contact injuries that you have if you got tackled or you ran into the goalkeeper. Or within 24 hours, you're taking inventory. And then around 48 hours, your body's basically saying, yeah, this is what's going on with you. And it's really stressful. Like when I played, when you were with the national team, we didn't have a physical therapist until like 96. So I was 6 to 7 years into my career with them. So a lot of it was like you stretch a little bit after the game and then that's it. Now you go, there's prehab, there's rehab. Like there's so much focus on prepping your body before you go in, and then coming off the game. Like there are so many things that both they do as a team as well as individually that you have access to. Like I said, we were icing, stretching, and then it was back on the bus, back to the hotel. You might do a little pool workout in between, but the 48 hours is when you really, your body's telling you, like, this is what hurts. And then you're trying to manage by saying, okay, what should I be really concerned about? And what was, that contact injury that maybe I just keep track of a little bit more. But what I noticed as a player when I wasn't in camp as much is how much my upper body hurt once I came into games as opposed to just when I was training on my own. Like, it was more lower body stuff. And then when you play a game, especially up top, like, there's the physicality of grabbing and pushing and holding people off and getting shoved and picking yourself back up was so much more than I had remembered. After the 90-minute game, your body kind of screams at you in those periods of like, welcome back.
Yeah, I think also for me, I've had to learn the hard way a little bit. I think the jump from playing collegiate sports to them being a pro, it really does become a full-time job. And we discussed briefly earlier that because there's much more of a holistic approach to the sport, and meaning like your sleep, your nutrition, your recovery, we have so much access now to all different recovery modalities, whether that's cryotherapy or compression or even designated topical creams. There's this almost pressure to use all of those. I think for me, it's just been learning what really works best. And to your point, I definitely relate to the 48 hour. I think like your body's still running on adrenaline most of the time, 24 hours after a game. But now with it being such a long season and having multiple games each week, you really have to figure out a way to recover as quickly as possible. But yeah, it's definitely also being proactive about all of the resources that we have in the prehab and what you're doing post game. It weighs on you for sure.
And then you add travel, because sitting on a plane is not the best environment to recover. And that creates different types of stress and obstacles for your recovery. My husband and I were talking about like the locker room, and then you see a lot of instances where they bring people into the locker room, which is, it's cool to have celebrities come in. And but I know as a young player, like, I worked my butt off to know what happens in that locker room. It's a special place. It's a sacred place. It's where all the inside jokes like that, and probably the first 15 minutes of every training session where you catch up with your teammates, you kind of do your jog and stretch, or you're, putting your shin guards on. Like, those two places and times were really about catching up and connecting. We were saying, he had a word, if you want to know what happens in the locker room, learn to hit a curveball better. Like, for me, you got to share a lot with your teammates in there, and you would have conversations. I mean, I remember you're like, how are you feeling today? Like, was that workout yesterday tough? And you'd have some teammates, you could tell they were like, yep, wasn't my favorite, or that fitness session was a bit harder than expected. Like, gosh, like, my quad's a little sore today. I got to keep track of that. But it also meant that you had earned the right to be there. And I think that was really important as a young athlete, to make sure that it became that special place where you create those memories with your teammates.
Yeah, I do think that the locker room will always be super sacred. And I think that there is definitely a component to that being like intimate to your own team. Yeah. And just knowing that from a team perspective. I think it's funny to think on certain traditions that my team has. One of my teammates, before every game, it's almost like a superstition at this point. She has like a certain song that she always like does karaoke for the team, or just things like that that are just certain traditions that you start to build on as a team. And it's always going to look different on whatever team you're on. Like my college team is so different than the pro experience that I've had. A big jump from college to professional is like the age gap between your teammates. Like everyone's in a different phase of life. But I think that's also super special because I've gotten advice from my teammates that have had so much experience that I've yet to gain. But yeah, even on the road, I think that those are such important bonding times, whether that's on the bus or playing cards or just things like that that are moments that you're not really going to be able to recreate unless you're traveling with your team.
Yeah. One of the little questions they had for us is like, what's one of the things, like whether it's tradition or that you don't do in a locker room, like in soccer, like you don't touch anyone else's boots, anyone else's cleats. Like that is, you don't mess with them, you don't try them on, you don't like, unless you're asked to pick them up or grab them, it's like you don't touch them.
It's sacred.
Yes.
As competitors, you and I both, like it's really hard to want to step away from soccer. I feel like even on my off days, I'm constantly thinking about the game, which I think has its pros and cons. I think it's important to be able to separate. But for me, I love playing tennis and I love watching tennis and playing pickleball. I'm not sure if you guys are big into that, but I'm definitely getting into that more, which I think is really fun for me to still be able to bring out my competitive side, but also it's so different than soccer. So that's been really fun for me. But yeah, I love to cook. I love to bake. I'm a normal human outside of soccer. Yeah, all the things though.
You know, now, like when I played, it was a little bit different. I think I felt like I spent way too much time thinking about the last training session or the next game. But just hanging out with your teammates, I think, was one thing. Now what I do, even though I'm not playing, is I try to play golf because I like to torture myself, like everyone else that plays golf is. But I've learned to love it because it forces the aspects of when I played soccer that were a lot of my challenges as a player was learning how to move past just times in games where I either, failed or messed up or wasn't positive or good, because golf, you really have to be present and where you are. And the other thing about golf is you physically can't intimidate the sport like I could in soccer. Like if I wasn't there technically, I could work really hard and still make a difference. Well, golf, the harder you try, the worse it becomes. So I've had to learn to kind of let go a lot. And you really get out of it what you put into it, but also what you don't bring to the game. So I spend a lot of time. I love to cook too. And so if you come into my house and the TV's on, I'm either watching some type of live sport or I'm watching a cooking show. Those are the two things I do. When I was a young athlete, we didn't have those resources. So it was really about trusting your body, looking at what you could do in the environment that you were in. When there wasn't a league, a lot of us stay connected with our college programs. One, because you were able to train with them when you were in town and you could use the facilities, whether it be like, the trainer would be out there and you'd just walk by and go, hey, like this has been bothering me a little bit. Like, can you just take a look at it? So that was really important before we had our league and when I wasn't with the national team. And now, one of the things my mom tried to tell me when I was very young is to keep stretching. That's probably the thing I would tell a younger player is do a lot of yoga. Because a lot of my aches and pains today are from what I put my body through and what I wasn't proactive in doing when I was a young athlete, because like our stretching was you bent down and kind of tied your shoes, put your shin guards in, and jogged a couple times back and forth, and you're like, all right, let's go. You go up to Emma's practice, and they spend a good amount of time not just with stretching, but activation. The prehab part of, and the science behind what they do is so much more advanced, that it really helps create an environment to prolong your career and also understand your body more. And I think that knowledge, and I've learned as I've gotten older, like, yeah, my back hurts, but my back isn't like, it's another muscle or muscles that aren't firing that is causing your back to take on a lot more of the stress and strain of what you're doing. So going back to strengthening those and stretching those, and what we're talking about today is being proactive about that pain, not pushing it off, and attacking it, and learning from those experiences to make sure you stay healthy well into my 60s, 70s, and 80s.
Yeah, to that point too, I think the proactiveness is something that we talked a lot about, and being able to manage the daily aches that are going to be inevitable. And I think for me now, it's also important to recognize that everything that I do now and the steps that I'm taking now are going to help protect my body when I'm done playing soccer, which is also inevitable. I can't play forever, unfortunately, but I know that my performance too is being measured not only against my opponents, but against the new talent that comes into the league each year. And that's something we talked about too. The talent pool now is far ahead of what it was at one point. And so taking care of the everyday aches and pains that I do have, it's definitely become a non-negotiable part of my strategy to being able to show up each season as my best.
We're here on behalf of Tylenol. I think it's what I loved about when they came to us is, it was shared at the beginning, is really about a lot of women, we put others first. And I think thinking about yourself and trying to be your best self, healthiest self, to not only be there for you for a longer period of time, but that you can also be there for others. And a list of things that you can do, but being mindful of taking care of yourself is really important. And as the mom of 2 daughters, is expressing that to them. And if I can model that behavior, then that will impact them today and for the rest of their lives. And that's, for me, really important. And as I've gotten older, for someone, I am relatively healthy. And I think a lot of that is due to the fact that I've thought about my health going forward, trying to stay active, but also managing and staying on top of when I do have pain, is being confident in talking to the people that I trust and staying with the routine I have of whether that's stretching, yoga, but staying, keeping movement, and making sure that the pain doesn't move into an area that persists to the point that I have to, make a drastic decision.
For me, when all of this came about, I was super excited to have the opportunity to continue building a platform that normalized the discussion around pain. And I think that what we really hope is that the next generation can learn from our approach, and that the ultimate strength is just acknowledging pain and accepting it for what it is, not hiding from it.
Yeah. Doing something about it. Thank you.
Thank you.